Welcome to another part of Pastoralist in the Modern World. This is the second part, Class 9 History. This is a map of India showing the different pastoral communities who are settled in different parts of the country. Starting from Gujjar Bakarwals, the Gaddi Shepherds, the Banjaras, the Raikas, the Dhangars, the Kurumas, Kurubas, and the Golas. They are settled in different parts of the country, and few of them I have already discussed. Now let's discuss the Dhangars from Maharashtra. The Dhangar community is a large pastoral and nomadic community primarily from Maharashtra. They are known for their historical role as the shepherds, Garadia, and blanket weavers and also as buffalo herders. यही इनका मेन काम है गरड़िया हैं blanket weavers हैं and buffalo herders. The Dhangars shepherds stay in the central plateau of Maharashtra during the monsoon season which receives very low rainfall or low rainfall होने से the cattle gets a large area for grazing. Now the dhangars follow a seasonal migration pattern. Let us see what it is. In the monsoons, they stay in the central plateau. After the monsoon, when the winter is almost approaching, they will migrate towards the western ghats and the coastal areas. And they will stay there for quite some time. And again, in the summers, they will move again based on water and pasture availability. Now, the central plateau has ideal grazing conditions during monsoon. In the central plateau, some areas remain fallow, matlab unplowed and unseeded during a growing season. So, during monsoon, this area provides the grazing space for the cattle. The central plateau is known as a semi arid, drought prone zone and not a true desert. Dry crops like bajra are sown here. This area receives moderate rainfall, which makes the fresh grass grow quickly and provides open grazing lands, which is safe and accessible for the cattle. By October, the Dhangars harvest the dry crop bajra and then they migrate towards the Konkan in the west. They reach Konkan in October or November and stay there until the monsoon returns again in the central plateau. They leave Konkan because when the monsoon comes in Konkan, it is not suitable for the dhangars and their livestock, as their sheep and flocks cannot tolerate the heavy rainfall and the wet and humid conditions. The dhangar herders move their flocks for different reasons. After the rain, the ghats grow thick green grass. Animals get rich fodder. Water sources are also abundant. Along the coastal plains, the cattle moves and they get large area for grazing. The farmers in the Konkan also they grow rice, ragi, vegetable, coconut, betel nut. So after harvesting rice, farmers will invite the dhangars to let their sheep graze on the leftover stalks. In return, the sheep will manure the soil which will improve the fertility of the soil. So this is a give and take relationship between the dhangas and the farmers. The dhangas receive rice, jowar, ragi and some payment. As the monsoon approaches again, they leave the Konkan area and return to their settlement. Now comes the Golas, the Kurumas, and the Kurubas. The Golas, Kurumas, and the Kurubas are pastoral communities in the states of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh in India. Golas primarily herded cattle. The Kurumas and the Kurubas focused on rearing sheep and goats and selling woven blankets. These groups lived near the forest, cultivated small plots of land, and practiced seasonal migration to find better pastures during the dry season. They were also engaged in many small trades and took care of the herds. Their movement depended on monsoon and the dry season. They will move as per the season. In the dry season, they moved to the coastal areas and again they came back when the rains approached back in their region. This is a chart showing the pastoral community, the region, their main occupation, the animals reared, lifestyle features, and other important details. So you can go through this chart, it will be easy for memorizing. The Banjaras. The Banjaras were a well known group of nomadic graziers moved over long distances, particularly in the areas of modern day Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh. They were important historical traders and transporters who sold goods like plough cattle in exchange for grain and fodder. Plough cattle refers to the animals, typically oxen or bulls, used to plough or till the soil for farming purpose. So the Banjaras were nomadic graziers. Now comes the Raikas. The Raikas are traditional pastoral community from Rajasthan. R for Raikas and R for Rajasthan. Easy to memorize. The Thar desert climate in Rajasthan, as well as the Aravalli hills, which run parallel to the monsoon winds. So the hills do not block the moisture at all. All these factors make Rajasthan one of the driest states in India, and rainfall varies greatly. Since rainfall is small and uncertain, the Raikas have combined pastoralism with cultivation. The monsoon season in Barmer, Jaisalmer, Bikaner, and Jodhpur, parts of western Rajasthan, typically occurs from July to September. These districts are part of arid and semi arid western Rajasthan region, which receives very low and highly variable rainfall. So, during monsoon, the Raikas of these regions stay in their village homes where green pasture is available. By October, they move out in search of other pastures and water. Their migration often takes them towards regions with available green fields and water, such as parts of Haryana and Madhya Pradesh. They return back again during the next monsoon. They stay in these regions only for several months, often until the next monsoon arrives. They time their journey to reach their villages in Rajasthan as the new rains begin to ensure fresh pasture is available and they can tend their soil for agricultural purpose. The Raikas can be divided in two main categories. One is the Maru Raika. They are primarily the camel herders. They live in the Thar desert in the settlements called Dhandi. And the other Raikas are also there. They are primarily the sheep and the goat herders. So the main distinction between the two is because of the animals they are herding. Maru Raikas are herding the camels and the others are herding the sheep and goat. Pastoralists had to judge how long the herds could stay in one area. They also had to find out where they could find new pastures and water. They also had to calculate the timing of their movement. They had to establish a relationship with the farmers on the way to ensure their herds could graze in harvested fields. They made their living out of herding, trading, and cultivation. These were all the factors that the pastoralists kept in mind. Now comes the colonial rule. Under the colonial rule, pastoralists' lives was drastically altered as their traditional grazing ground area shrank due to the expansion of agriculture and reservation of forest. शासन अंग्रेजी शासन के दौरान चरवाहों का जीवन बहुत बदल गया। इसका मेन कारण यही था कि उन्हें पारंपरिक चरागाहों का दायरा अंग्रेजी सरकार लगातार छोटा करते जा रही थी और अंग्रेजों ने खेती को बढ़ावा देने के लिए बड़ी-बड़ी जमीनों को कृषि क्षेत्र में बदल दिया था। So the pastoralists faced increased taxes, restrictions on movement. They had to adapt by reducing their herds, finding new pastures, or for some, even becoming settled farmers or even the landless laborers. Landless laborers were working like the daily wage laborers. They were always roaming in search of the work. So basically, some left their traditional work and became settled farmers. नाउ द ब्रिटिशर्स इंट्रोड्यूस द वेस्टलैंड रूल्स। ब्रिटिश पीरियड में सरकार ने वेस्टलैंड रूल्स बनाए। इन रूल्स के तहत ऐसी ज़मीनें जिन्हें जिन्हें ब्रिटिश वेस्टलैंड या बेकार पड़ी लैंड मानते थे, उन्हें गवर्नमेंट अपने कंट्रोल में ले लेती थी, हड़प लेती थी और फिर उन लैंड्स को खेती के लिए किसानों, ट्रेडर्स या बड़े ज़मींदारों को दे देती थी। रीज़न एक ही था, इट वॉज अ सोर्स ऑफ फाइनेंस। Land was required to increase production of wheat, cotton, jute, and other agricultural products that England needed. They considered all unproductive land as wasteland. So this was creating a problem for the pastoralist. So by mid 19th century, wasteland rules were enacted in many parts of the country. Mainly the land used by the pastoralists all went under the colonial control under this rule. इम्पैक्ट ऑन द पेस्टरलिस्ट ऑफ दिस रूल वाज दैट कि उनके ग्रेजिंग लैंड्स कम हो गए, एनिमल्स के लिए फूड की कमी हो गई, लाइफ स्टॉक पॉपुलेशन भी धीरे धीरे गिरने लगी, सीजनल मूवमेंट में भी बाधा आने लगी। पेस्टरलिस्ट हर सीजन में माइग्रेशन करते थे, बट कल्टीवेशन बढ़ाने के लिए उनके ट्रेडिशनल लैंड को ही जब हटा दिया गया, सो इट ऑल अफेक्टेड देयर लाइफ। लाइवलीहुड पे बहुत असर हुआ। पेस्टरलिस्ट की मेन इनकम पशुपालन ही थी। जब ग्रेजिंग लैंड रिड्यूस हुआ तो इसका सीधा इफेक्ट उनके पशुओं पर हुआ और इससे उनकी इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन बहुत खराब होने लगी। सो दे सफर्ड अ लॉट बाय दीज रूल्स। नाउ कम्स द फॉरेस्ट एक्ट। The Forest Act by the colonial state had a huge impact on the pastoralist. ब्रिटिश colonial governments ने फॉरेस्ट को कंट्रोल करने के लिए कई फॉरेस्ट एक्ट बनाए। अलग अलग वर्षों में इनको लॉन्च भी किया गया। इनका मेन पर्पस एक ही था, कमर्शियल टिम्बर को प्रोटेक्ट करना अपने यूज़ के लिए, फॉरेस्ट से रेवेन्यू जनरेट करना और पीपल और पेस्टरलिस्ट की एक्टिविटीज़ को रेस्ट्रिक्ट करना। ब्रिटिश ने कई जंगलों को रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट और प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट बना दिया, रूल पास करके। रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट में ग्रेजिंग ऑलमोस्ट पूरी तरह बैन कर दिया गया। सो प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट में रेस्ट्रिक्टेड ग्रेजिंग अलाउड थी, because colonial government thought that grazing would destroy sapling and shoots, which would prevent new trees from growing. So they restricted the grazing in the protected forest. पैस्टोरलिस्ट सेंचुरीज से फॉरेस्ट पास्चर्स में अपने एनिमल्स को चराते थे, लेकिन फॉरेस्ट एक्ट आने के बाद ग्रेजिंग रेस्ट्रिक्ट हो गई, कई जगह पे पूरी तरह ही बंद हो गई। फॉरेस्ट एंट्री के लिए भी अब उनको परमिट देना था और फीस मैंडेटरी हो गया। In some areas, entry and exit was regulated. They had to pay fine if they stayed longer in the forest, even if the pasture was available. They had to pay fine for staying longer in the forest. They were unable to find valuable forage for their animals, so they were suffering a lot. Now, the next came the Criminal Tribes Act by the colonial government. ब्रिटिश सरकार ने 1871 में क्रिमिनल ट्राइब्स एक्ट पास किया। इस कानून के तहत भारत की कई पेस्टोरल नोमैडिक कम्युनिटीज को जन्म से ही अपराधी घोषित कर दिया गया, क्रिमिनल बाय बर्थ। जस्ट इमेजिन, Britishers wanted to control and rule over settled population, which could be easily identified and controlled. The pastoralists were nomadic. एक जगह से दूसरे जगह घूमते थे pastoralists. So the Britishers were always suspicious of them, and this was a way to control them. British colonial law declared entire nomadic and semi nomadic communities as born criminals. These communities were expected to live only in notified village settlements and were not allowed to move without a permit. Their movement was totally restricted by different types of laws passed by the colonial government, disturbing their traditional cycle. Imposition of grazing tax. Now comes another tax. ब्रिटिश सरकार ने पेस्टरलिस्ट को कंट्रोल करने और सरकार की रेवेन्यू बढ़ाने के लिए ग्रेजिंग टैक्स लागू किया। यह टैक्स उन लोगों के लिए था जो अपने एनिमल्स को खुले मैदानों में, फॉरेस्ट या ट्रेडिशनल ग्रेजिंग ग्राउंड्स में चराते थे। This was another problematic issue created by the colonial rule, as more tax meant more burden on the pastoralists who were barely surviving. Why the grazing tax was introduced? ब्रिटिश को दो चीज़ें चाहिए थी, रेवेन्यू इनकम बढ़ाना एंड पेस्टरलिस्ट की मूवमेंट और एक्टिविटीज़ को कंट्रोल करना। इसके लिए उन्होंने हर एनिमल या फिर हर्ड पर टैक्स लगाना शुरू कर दिया। As per the tax, there was a fee per animal or per herd. Herd means group of animal. पेस्टरलिस्ट को अपने हर जानवर जैसे शीप, गोट, कैटल, कैमल के लिए टैक्स देना पड़ता था। ग्रेजिंग के लिए परमिट लेना ज़रूरी था। गवर्नमेंट ने परमिट जारी किए, पहले टैक्स दो और फिर परमिट लो। In the decades between 1850s and 1880s, the right to collect tax was given to the contractors. By 1880s, government directly started collecting taxes. To enter the grazing tract, the pastoralist or the cattle herders have to show a pass, and they pay the tax as per the number of cattle heads they are having. How pastoralists coped with such colonial laws by adjusting their movements. उन्होंने अपने रास्ते बदलना शुरू कर दिए. Many pastoralists changed their migration routes. जब उनके पुराने फॉरेस्ट के रास्ते बंद हुए तो उन्होंने नए रूट्स को ढूंढना शुरू कर दिया जहां पर ब्रिटिशर्स ने कम रेस्ट्रिक्शंस लगाए थे। रिड्यूसिंग देयर हर्ड साइज, पशुओं की संख्या भी कम करना शुरू कर दिया। ग्रेजिंग टैक्स और कम चरागाहों की वजह से कई फैमिलियों ने कम एनिमल्स को पालना शुरू कर दिया एंड रिच पेस्टोरलिस्ट बॉट द लैंड एंड सेटल डाउन। दे ऑल्सो कंबाइंड द न्यू फॉर्म्स ऑफ वर्क। कुछ पेस्टोरलिस्ट फैमिलीज ने अपने ट्रेडिशनल ऑक्यूपेशन के साथ नए काम जोड़ लिए, जैसे फार्मिंग, या फिर डेली वेज वर्कर बन गए, सेलिंग द डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स, वूल, हाइड्स। इससे उनकी इनकम थोड़ी बढ़ी और वे टैक्स और परमिट्स का खर्च भी संभाल सके। Now comes pastoralism in Africa. Africa is one of the world's largest regions where pastoralism, पशुपालन आधारित जीवन बहुत बड़े पैमाने पर होता है। यहाँ के ड्राई क्लाइमेट्स, सवाना, ग्रासलैंड और डेजर्ट्स पेस्टोरल लाइफस्टाइल के लिए सूटेबल हैं। Africa is full of wildlife, and pastoralism in Africa is very old. More than half of the world's pastoral population lives in Africa. The different pastoral communities are the Maasai, the Berbers, Somali, Boran, the Turkana. Most of them lived in semi arid grasslands where rain fed agriculture was difficult. They had nomadic and semi nomadic lifestyle. अफ्रीकन पैस्टोरलिस्ट सीजन के अनुसार अपने एनिमल्स को वाटर सोर्सेज और ग्रासलैंड तक ले जाते थे। ड्राई सीजन में वे लोग रिवर्स या लेक्स के पास जाते थे और वेट सीजन में सवाना ग्रासलैंड में वे अपने जानवरों को फैला देते थे फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ ग्रेजिंग। अफ्रीकन पैस्टोरलिस्ट अलग अलग क्लाइमेट और रीजन में रहते थे, इसीलिए वे अलग अलग तरह के जानवरों को पालते थे। कैटल मेनली कंसिस्ट ऑफ काउ एंड द ऑक्स, मोस्ट कॉमन animal for the Maasai and other groups. Goats were also there, and the sheep. Camels were also there for the desert regions like the Sahara, and for transportation, milk and trade, they used camels and donkeys for carrying the load. और movement में मदद के लिए donkeys were widely used by the African pastoralist. The Maasai community were mainly in the East Africa in southern Kenya and Tanzania. They were nomadic and pastoral people. They depended on the milk and meat for their subsistence. The title Masai is derived from the word Maasai, which means my people. Maasai people believed that tilling the land for agriculture is a crime against nature. From late 19th century, the British colonial government encouraged local peasants and communities to expand agriculture, thus leading to conversion of partial lands into agricultural fields. Thus, Maasai community lost about 60% of their partial land. Loss of grazing lands was also faced by them. Colonial powers divided their territory, took the best lands for the white settlers and cultivation, and established game reserves like the Masai Mara and Serengeti, pushing the Masai into smaller arid areas. In 1885, the Masai land was further split into two by international boundary between British Kenya and German Tanganyika, a division that severely reduced their territory and grazing lands. Masai land was cut into half by a new international border separating British and German colonies. The new borders and the colonial laws severely restricted the Maasai's traditional nomadic movement, which were essential for finding seasonal pastures and water. This limited mobility led to overgrazing of the confined areas and a shortage of the forage for the livestock, which ultimately depleted the number of the livestock. द किलिमंजारो वाटर प्रोजेक्ट ईस्ट अफ्रीका में कॉलोनियल पीरियड के दौरान शुरू किया गया था। इसका मेन पर्पस था माउंट किलिमंजारो के आसपास के वाटर रिसोर्सेज को कंट्रोल करना और उन्हें यूरोपियन सेटलर्स तथा उनकी प्लांटेशंस के लिए इस्तेमाल करना। बट द विलेजर्स वर बार्ड फ्रॉम यूजिंग दिस वाटर। Both German and later British colonial powers saw this opportunity to cultivate coffee there. मसाई पैस्टोरलिस्ट वर बैडली अफेक्टेड बाय दिस। मसाई को ग्रेजिंग और पानी चाहिए था अपने कैटल के लिए, बट प्रोजेक्ट की वजह से वाटर सोर्सेज फेंस्ड हो गए थे, बाउंड्री बन गई थी चारों तरफ। सो देयर एक्सेस वाज लिमिटेड एंड ड्यू टू द लैक ऑफ ग्रेजिंग लैंड एनिमल्स वर डाइंग। कॉलोनियल रूलर्स चाहते थे कि मसाई एक जगह पर ही सेटल हो जाए ताकि उन्हें इजीली कंट्रोल किया जा सके और उन पे टैक्स लगाया जा सके। सो डिफरेंट ट्रीटीज फोर्स द मसाई इनटू रिजर्व्स ऑफ सदर्न केनिया एंड नॉर्दर्न तंजानिया। Government imposed tax on them after that. Now, the Maasai traditionally were long distance migration people. They used to do long distance migration, but colonial rule के बाद कई routes बंद कर दिए गए थे, passes and permits compulsory हो गए थे, movement strictly monitored की जा रही थी। इसकी वजह से उनका seasonal grazing system totally disturb हो गया था। The white settlers and the European colonists saw them as dangerous and uncivilized. They were not allowed to enter or trade in the markets in the white areas of Africa. But the colonists needed the native people for digging mines, building roads, and develop towns. So they imposed restrictions on pastoralists to control them. नाउ इफेक्ट ऑफ ड्रॉट ऑन द पेस्ट्रलिस्ट। ड्रॉट यानी सूखा, जो कि पेस्ट्रलिस्ट के लिए सबसे बड़ा खतरा होता है क्योंकि उनका जीवन पूरी तरह से वाटर, ग्रास और लाइफ स्टॉक पर ही डिपेंड करता है। तो जब सूखा होगा तो सब कुछ अफेक्ट हो जाएगा। Because of the drought, there was massive loss of the cattle. The Maasai depended almost entirely on cattle. During droughts, water sources dried up and pastures became scarce. Because colonial governments had taken away their best grazing lands like the fertile highlands, the Maasai herds had no safe fallback areas. As a result, huge cattle mortality was there, leading to hunger, poverty, disease, and social breakdown. Now, the Maasai community was divided into two parts, the elders and the warriors. Who were the elders? The elders are the older men who have passed through the warrior stage. They are respected for their experience and wisdom. Their main roles include making important decisions for the community, controlling allocation of grazing land and water sources, settling dispute, performing religious cultural ceremonies, and also deciding the best route for migration. And on the other hand, the warriors or the Morons are the young men, Maasai men, usually between 15 to 30 years. They become warriors after going through initiation rites. Their main role is to protect the community from enemies and predators, defending the cattle herd from raid or wild animals, taking care of the cattle and the grazing land and grazing them over the long distances. So, this was the role of the elders and the warriors. Now comes raiding. What is raiding? Raiding means attacking another group to capture their cattle. Raiding was an important traditional practice among the Maasai and many other East African pastoral groups. It was not just stealing, it was a recognized and accepted custom among pastoral tribes. Raiding was important because cattle was a wealth for the Maasai community and the pastoralist. Raiding was a part of the warrior culture. It showed bravery of the men, skill in fighting by the men, the leadership of the men, and the readiness to protect the community from any sort of danger. But Britishers had imposed lot of restrictions on both the elders and the warriors. The Britishers also appointed chiefs. Chiefs were loyal to the British people only. British appointed chiefs were usually given special powers. The chiefs, on the other hand, accumulated wealth. They lived in towns and did trade, different from the pastoralist. They had both pastoral and non pastoral income, so they easily survived drought, wars, and other natural calamities. The poor pastoralists did not have enough resources to survive in the bad times of drought, famine, diseases, and any other type of disaster. So they always had to struggle for maintaining their livelihood and their livestock. In times of famine, they worked as charcoal burners and did other jobs to earn a living for them so that they can survive and also help the cattle survive. The social change was observed in the Maasai society after the Britishers imposed lot of laws at two different levels. First, the traditional difference between the elders and the warriors was disturbed. And secondly, a new distinction also arose between the rich and the poor pastoralists. Now, the different ways in which the pastoralists coped with such changes was they changed their grazing patterns, they reduced the size of their herds, kept small number of animals, they diversified their occupations. Many pastoralists started doing other jobs to survive, such as labor on the farms, jobs on the plantations to survive, working as herders for rich farmers, trading wool, milk, hides, and animal products. Some rich pastoralists bought land for settling and giving up nomadic life, and the poor had no other option but to borrow money from the money lenders for survival. Paying taxes and following the new rules was also done by the pastoralist. Even though they disliked colonial laws, but they paid grazing tax, bought permits to enter forest. Some negotiated with colonial officials, others began small-scale farming, growing maize, wheat, or millets, and used farming to survive the droughts and other seasonal calamities or disasters. Basically, they changed from their traditional work to other type of work for maintaining their lifestyle. Even today, pastoralists continue to play an important role in the economy of the country, supplying milk, wool, meat, and animal products. Their knowledge of the climate, grassland, and sustainable grazing remains valuable. The chapter shows us that although pastoralism faced many challenges in the past, pastoral communities have survived by adopting, resisting, and maintaining their traditions. This brings us to the end of this chapter. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.